Hello everyone, welcome to my second YouTube video. I am Joan, I'm a content creator living and working in Cape Town, and I just posted my first YouTube video a couple of days ago, and after it went live I realized that it really didn't say much about who I was or what I do or anything like that. So I posted a Q&A to my Instagram and I got a few questions about my running journey and what I do and some personal questions, so I'm gonna get into those now. Before answering anything, I should just say that I am not a qualified coach or nutritionist or anything like that, and the info I share on here is just things that have worked for me, but I will keep disclaiming that as I go along. I am not fit to coach anyone, but if you want to take my advice, just take it with a pinch of salt. I'm just giving you tips on what's worked for me. So the first question is, what got you into running? I started my running journey at the start of 2023. As the new year came along, a couple of friends and I said that we would love to do a half marathon, and we chose the Knysna half marathon because it's such a fun trip to do with friends and we made a whole weekend out of it. So we started training around April 2023 and did the Knysna half marathon, and I just fell in love with the sport and how it made me feel. So I decided to keep going after that. The second question is one that I got quite a few times, and that is, do you have any tips for beginner runners? And I know the feeling of going out for a run and it absolutely flooring you and feeling like your chest is going to pack up and everything feels awful. That happens in the beginning. It happened to me for like ages. I remember suffering through it. I had already decided I was going to do the half marathon, and I went out for like a 3K run, and I completely suffered the whole way. So that was super discouraging. But what worked for me, which probably isn't, again, not qualified advice, but I signed up to a race a couple of months away that I knew I had to train for. So I suppose I wasn't really running out of fear, but to an extent I was, because I knew I had a race coming up, so it kept me going and it kept me consistent. One thing that will absolutely guarantee progress and make you feel like a more confident runner is just being consistent, as in walk a minute, run a minute, walk a minute, run a minute. Don't worry about your pace in the beginning. Just get time on your legs. Just do it day in and day out. In 4, 5, 6 weeks you'll be running a 5K or a 7K without that much hassle. And yeah, consistency is pretty much the golden rule when it comes to running. Even after a year of running, I took 3 weeks off to go to New Zealand, and I didn't run much there. I think I did 1 or 2 runs, and when I got back to Cape Town I was like distraught, because before the trip I did a 30K race, and then I got back to Cape Town and I couldn't even do 8 kilometers as a long run. I just couldn't finish 8Ks. So that I had to learn again from scratch around this time last year, and I was like, I've done all this progress and I have to pick it up from the ground up. But running is very, very, very high maintenance, and if you take a week sick or you take a couple of weeks off, it will feel a bit painful to get back into it. But just be consistent. The comfort of running will come, the enjoyment will come later on. Okay, the third question is, did you have any anxiety when you started running, and how did you overcome it? I think I didn't really have anxiety towards running, but there definitely have been days where I've been out on a run and I think the people driving past are thinking, why is she running so slowly? And that was something that I got over very quickly, because then I started observing when I was driving whether I was thinking that about the runners on the road, and I never ever was. When I drive past runners, the last thing I'm thinking is, oh my gosh, they're so slow, or their form is so terrible, or whatever. I'm most of the time thinking, oh wow, I should go out for my run, or I wonder if this is a nice route to run. I'm almost never judging them. I'm more inspired by them. So that anxiety came and went very, very quickly. Even right in the beginning, when I used to stop and walk along the way, I just realized very quickly nobody cares. Not even the runners running past you. Nobody cares. When everybody's driving or going about their lives or running or whatever, they're so focused on their own little world. They are not looking at you or caring about you. And even if they are, within 20 seconds they'll have forgotten and the next thing will grab their attention. So definitely no anxiety when it comes to running. Next question is, do you feel safe running alone in South Africa? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I feel totally safe when I'm running during peak hours on the promenade. There's so many people out. When I was living in Camps Bay, I felt totally safe along that strip as well, but there have been times that I've felt unsafe, for sure. I've felt eerily alone at times if I'm not running during peak hours, and even if I'm in a generally safe area, when it's just me running and I can't really see people around me, it does definitely stress me out, and I don't like that feeling at all. I am very, very cautious when it comes to running. I have another question on here about what my running playlist is. I don't run with music. I'm very, very alert, and I keep my eyes on everyone that I run past. It's a natural thing for me. I just always am aware of what's going on around me. I have been mugged before. I was in high school and I was walking home from the gym, and I had my earphones in, and my phone was in my back pocket, and a guy came up and grabbed my stuff and jumped into a car. So that was like, it wasn't a harmful situation. I wasn't hurt at all, but that was a huge shock to me. And since then, I've always just been very alert, and I haven't really walked out in public with my earphones on, especially not out of peak hours when there are tons of people around me. So sometimes yes, sometimes no, but I'd always err on the side of caution and run with a group, even during peak hours. If you are somebody that tends to feel unsafe, trust your instinct. There is a reason to feel unsafe sometimes. There are bad things that happen when people go for walks or runs alone and they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. So definitely rather be safe. I have so many questions on nutrition and nutrition during marathon training and how I eat in the day, and I'll get into my nutrition for long runs and races, but I won't give advice on how to eat in general around the time of a marathon or while you're training, because again, I'm not qualified in this at all. My coach Jenna is extremely qualified in this, and she's really good at what she does, and she's helped so many athletes with their food and nutrition journey, and she's given me some good tips for before long runs and races. So what I've learned in my past marathon journey that I'm applying this time as well is before a race or a long run, or generally any hard session, 45 minutes or an hour before, I will have a piece of toast or two with peanut butter and honey, and if I can only manage one, then I have orange juice with that, just to stack up as much carbs as I can to use during the session. So very carb focused before a long run or a race. And then during the long run, I have a USN energy gel every half an hour. I know a lot of people take them only every 45 minutes, but every half an hour works really well for me. And I love the USN gels because they taste so good, and they are very sweet, but I love the flavor of them, and so inexpensive. I think the vanilla ones are 19 Rand and the chocolate ones are 20 Rand or something like that. And I know there are amazing other gels on the market that cost quite a bit more and work really well for certain athletes, but the ones that work really well for me or that I enjoy are luckily very inexpensive. So if you haven't tried the USN gels yet, you really should. They're super good, and I find that they taste really good, and especially when you're out there sweating and running and having a hard day out, that very sweet flavor is actually so nice. If I had to have one now, I'd probably spit it out, but on the road it tastes really nice. Oh, and then after a long run or a race, it's very important to eat enough protein, so to then have your second breakfast or your lunch packed with protein, just to replenish or fix or restore the muscles and get yourself recovered as quickly as possible. So carb focus before, more than enough carbs during the run to keep yourself going and not hit the wall, and then protein afterwards. Here's one question: what races are you planning on running? So I have Bay to Bay 30-kilometer race next week, Sunday, the 19th of Jan. So that's super soon. I don't think I'll be racing it. I think I'll more treat it as a slightly faster long run, because it is about 5 weeks or 4 weeks before Peninsula Marathon. So that's quite a big one coming up, and I'm so nervous for that. I really am. I've been enjoying the training for it, but I just don't feel like I've been as focused as for Cape Town, which isn't, I shouldn't be comparing journeys, but I just don't feel totally in my zone like I did for Cape Town. So it is stressing me out a little bit, and everybody's just been telling me how horrible the wind can be for Peninsula. So I'm trying to just stay positive. And then after that, I have Two Oceans Half Marathon, and thereafter I have not planned yet. I would love to do Cape Town Marathon again, but I don't know if I can go overseas and run a marathon. That would be the dream. So the second half of the year, I'm pretty much keeping open-ended, and we'll see what happens. What might happen is after Two Oceans, I may very well want a month of just not training for anything and just taking a bit of a break, because there's been a lot of races on top of each other pretty much since last year, July. From July, it was Festival of Running, and then Gun Run, and then the marathon, and now Bay to Bay and the next marathon. So I just think I need a bit of a break after Two Oceans, and then I'll reevaluate my races thereafter. This one's a bit of a random one, but what school was I in? I was in Paul Girls High. I finished high school in 2018. So yeah, my parents still live in Paul. We grew up there, so that's where I went to school. Here's a question. How did you develop a running plan when you first began? I didn't. I made it up. I started training for Bloberg half marathon after my Neisner half marathon. That was my first race. I started training for Bloberg and I just winged it. I didn't really go according to any kind of plan. I just wanted to make sure that I had 1 or 2 runs during the week and then a long run on the weekends, and I basically followed the same structure that I followed for Neisner, which was no structure at all. And then after Bloberg, I carried on doing that, but I doubled down on my load because I signed up for Bay to Bay 30k race, which at that time was the longest race that I'd ever run. And I got a niggle in my knee, and I know those two things are related, as well as probably not wearing the right shoes and a whole bunch of things, but pushing myself without any kind of guidance and no plan, yeah, it wasn't a good thing. I definitely overdid the training for that, and it was very random. It was very and every run was an easy run. I didn't really do any speed work or strength. I didn't do enough strength work. So all of those things played a role into why I got this niggle. But then after I got back from New Zealand, I got myself a coach, which links to the next question. What kind of role does a running coach play, and have you always used one? So I started with Jane after 2 weeks before Two Oceans last year. So after I got back from New Zealand, it was the end of Feb, and I was just feeling like I really want to get back into running and feel fit again. That was around the time where I was struggling to do an 8k from scratch, and I felt like I just couldn't run anymore. So I invested in a coach. I joined Maverick. I met Jane through the club. So I met Travis, he chatted to me, and he linked me up with a coach who was Jane, and she was amazing from the beginning. I didn't meet up with any other coaches. I just started working with her straight away. The kind of role that she plays is obviously she offers her expertise in training me and setting up a plan for me. Maverick offers different packages, and the package that I'm on now, she gives me strength work to do as well, that's specifically focused on runners or specifically targeted at what I need. And on top of that, it's just a companion. Marathon training gets super, super lonely, and at my age, 23, I don't have that many friends training for a marathon. It's quite a big commitment to make so young. I know that sounds so I think I'm better than them. That's not what I mean at all. It's just there aren't that many people training for a marathon, and just to have someone alongside you all the time who can relate to you. Jane has run tons of marathons herself and done triathlons and done all the things, so she can relate to almost anything, and it's really nice for me to have that companionship throughout marathon training, especially from another girl. I can tell my boyfriend all the things, but just to confide in another woman is so nice. How do you feel with training on your period? This is really hard for me. I find it very, very hard to keep my motivation up when I am on my period, but I've also learned to have a lot of grace with myself in this time. So if my paces are a bit slower and I'm feeling a little bit off that day, then that's totally understandable. Our bodies go through a lot, and I have very, very painful periods, so I definitely have a bit of understanding for my struggles during that time. Yeah, it is really hard. So how I deal with it, I don't. Not very well. Is the Comrades Marathon on the cards for this year? Absolutely not. I am not planning on doing Comrades. I am not planning on doing anything other than a marathon at the most for a few years. I'm still very young, and my body is still learning to condition itself for marathon running and getting stronger, and I don't want to push myself beyond my means at the moment. It'll just do more harm than good, and I want to be running and be fit and active for years and years and years, so it would be so silly to push long distances into this time of my life just because other people are doing it, or I'm getting caught up in the hype or whatever. There are many other years to do comrades, and this year is not one of them. Actually, no year in the foreseeable future is one of them. Do you have any running rituals before you start a big race? Not really. I don't have any kind of superstitions or ways that I do things before a race. Maybe if I did, it would make me feel more at ease, but I don't have anything like that. I don't have anything like that. Okay, that's all the questions I'm gonna do for today. If I've missed an important one, please message me and I'll include it in the next one. I'll definitely do Q&As again, answering your questions and catching you guys up on how training is going and races coming up and things like that. That was super fun. I feel like I spoke a lot of nonsense and just rambled, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have, like I said, any other questions, just pop them in the comments or send me a message or anything like that. Thanks for watching.